Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 952 of our daily content grind, and since it's still a hot topic, and of course how could it not be, it's a new Transformers movie with a brand new direction that is incredibly divisive. If you missed my overall overview of the trailer, please go back a couple days in the channel and give it a watch. I try to keep it far more tempered, and I hope everyone else did the same because I begged them to do it. It's okay if you don't like the direction it's going in, the tone or the humor. I'll give you a heads up. The movie itself is not going to be nearly as comical as the trailer is, that's just trying to catch your attention with whatever jokes they can. I don't think it's going to be quite as cringe as some are fearing. I think I'm just happy that it's a new animated movie that's actually trying something different. That's that's my takeaway from it. It's trying something different than the standard Bayverse, now Bonaventura-verse format. So you know what? I welcome our new DreamWorks Transformer overlords. But it is still a kids movie, and it still very much feels like, the kind of that it's the kind of movie you pretty much know exactly how it's going to play out. So that's what we're doing today. I am going to call the shot. I'm going to now try to predict the entirety of the plot of Transformers 1 based off of a single trailer and the report from people getting to see the preview scene. So based solely on that, I'm going to try and put this entire movie together, and including a few little subplots and things that I'm expecting to find in the movie. So, come back in September after this movie launches, and let me know how accurate I was. I'll know for myself, but you know what? This is all just for fun and games, just to see how close I can get. So, here's where I think our opening scene is. I think, well, maybe not this is the opening, but this is probably the earliest that the trailer showed. So you have Orion Pax, a lowly worker robot who just has something of a natural charisma about him and something of a slacker streak. He'd rather go have fun than actually commit himself to the duties that he was assigned. And getting dragged along the entire way, is his friend D16. D16 is a more serious type, but again, Orion just has this natural charisma to him. You just want to follow his lead. So 16's the one who can get talked into these things all the time. So it's always him that Orion drags off into trouble. And the trouble in this case ends up being the race. We did see that in the trailer that there is going to be the Iacon 5000 race, and we do get a few clips from that. It seems like Orion's idea is for them to use jetpacks to join the race. At this point in the movie, we're going to learn that there is a bit of a functionist thing in this movie's plot, where they are just lowly workers because they cannot transform, as opposed to the ones in the race who do have vehicular modes that can run around the track. So they want to show off that they can, well, Orion wants to show off that, just because he doesn't transform doesn't mean he can't participate and win the race. So, they crash the race. In some cases, literally. It's a great way of getting an early, exciting scene into the movie. Just some really fast-paced animation, some low-stakes action, just to kind of set the mood for the rest of the movie. It does get them in a lot of trouble, which is where the opening scene from the trailer likely comes in. This is where we're going to get a lot of information about how their real personalities work and how they play off of each other, how their friendship works. You can see where they kind of clash, but it's not to the point of them getting genuinely upset with each other. Orion is still very friendly. 16 is still going along. He's just not happy with this current situation. I'm also expecting between this point, or probably as part of this point, and between this and the movie, we might get some indication about the symbol on his shoulder. either as something to be teased or made fun of, or just him just kind of musing about the mystery of it. Something he's had since his protoform first came online, It's just there no matter what. So, as punishment for crashing the race, they get dumped down to janitorial duty deeper down in Cybertron. This is where they come across B-127. Cringe as he is at first. I mean, when his theme is going to be trying to prove himself, I mean, it seems to be that he wants people to take him more seriously. He's going to have a lot of working up to do for that. But this is where you have to start that. Cringe as it is. So this, like all the other tasks Orion gets set to, does not interest him for long. Now, what they are actually doing in this is they are loading up cargo trains in order to take away the waste on Cybertron, and it's just going to deliver it up to the surface. By this point, we have learned you don't go to the surface. Going up to the surface of Cybertron is forbidden, for whatever reason. No one actually knows. But it makes Orion curious. If these trains actually do breach the surface, he wants to see why, and he wants to see what's up there, which is how he drags 16 along, and in an effort to be cooler, 127B also gets dragged along with them. So they hop the train. Now, according to the preview screening, where the original thing we just had to hear about, this is where they meet Elita 1, who is on security watch, and it's going to be a chase through and on top of the train in order to, where Elita is trying to capture these three. I'm going to make a point here. Of all the points in this movie that we've heard from, it's never been Ariel. It's never been her original name like Orion Pax. It's always been Elita 1. So we're just going to keep that consistent until I'm told otherwise. Point being, through the chaos of trying to apprehend these three on the train, something goes out of control and the train bursts through into the surface of Cybertron. Now, them all being underground transformers, this is the first time they've ever gotten to see the surface. The growing mountains in the distance, the aurora, from what we've heard from the preview, a sunrise, as well as a very dangerous thing on the surface of the planet. The surface is very dangerous. It does contain robotic animal life, but it also contains some very dangerous form of wildlife. It also contains some floating warships, and this place, which when we first see is just going to be some mysterious thing and just proof that there's another race that lives on the surface of this planet. There's something else living on Cybertron that they have never heard about. Now, in exploring the surface, they are going to come across a cave that looks like a living maw. Lots of teeth at the entrance, very dark, very gloomy inside. But again, much more organic. It's mossy. There's vines growing around. The kind of plants that don't need to necessarily be in soil to grow. Things that would be appropriate to find on Cybertron. Things that, alien visitors just have spores carried, things that are delivered to the planet, whatever aliens coming to and from, that kind of thing. Little things that get carried along with them for the ride. You get what I mean. But in exploring this cave, two things are going to happen. One, Megatron's going to discover this, where something up on this surface actually looks like the symbol that he bears on his shoulder, which might lead to him realizing or discovering that he is a protoform of the race that originally lived on the surface. What that means now, no clue. We'll guess at it later on, but for now, we're just kind of left at this mystery of exactly what is Megatron. Or at least what is D16. The other thing that happens is this thing attacking. Given how foggy it is, I do think it matches the aesthetic and the fog that's going on in the other scenes that are in the cave. I think this is going to be Alpha Trion just suddenly defending himself from invaders, and it's going to be played for comedy. No, it's going to be played for terror. It's going to be played for terror, and then it's going to be passed off as like, oh, I'm sorry. But it is going to actually be Alpha Trion. Once he realizes that they aren't villainous, they are just, Cybertronians, he's going to grant them T-Cogs. Now, where transformation cogs just happen to come from, no clue. Or why these four specifically have been chosen. They try to make it a bigger deal than just, oh, hey, I'm giving you the ability to transform. They make it like a bigger grand thing, like, yeah, you have been chosen to ascend and evolve. Which does give us the looks they're going to have for the majority of the movie. Them all looking much more armored, much more familiar to us as fans. You're just going to notice mostly that the chests are now all closed off. They don't have that empty socket that's just waiting for a T-Cog to get shoved in there. So they are told they can now transform. And they run, and they head out of the cave to run back, to try and run home, basically. And then hijinks ensue as they don't know how to transform. I don't think they're trying to do it under pressure. I just think it's just going to be played off as a comedy spot. And the mystery here is going to be this particular scene where there are robots on the surface that catch eye of them. That's our vehicons are actually going to take notice of these four on the surface. This doesn't bode well. This does not bode well at all. And someone takes notice. Oh, and they want a meeting. Oh, do they want a meeting? You can see a crowd of robots there at the bottom just waiting for someone to exit this warship. And I believe, if I'm right, it is a crowd of vehicons with Sentinel Prime at the lead, and he is meeting with what this movie has as Quintessons. So it's Quintessons living on the surface of the planet, and it's likely the Quintessons who basically beat the Cybertronians into submission. The symbol on Megatron's shoulder might actually be from an ancient race of Transformers that actually first tried to fight off the Quintessons and died in the process, leaving the survivors underground, as well as the new generation of Transformers that have never known the surface. The trick here is Sentinel Prime is in on this. When when the Quintessons learn that Transformers breach the surface, it is Sentinel Prime who has to go and address the situation. And as you can see from this shot, it's not going to go very well. They are not happy. So here is where the Quintessons just draw the line. Okay, if they discover us on the surface, they're going to rebel again. So before they rebel again, we're just going to wipe them out and start clean with another generation of robots to do the work instead. Since you, Sentinel Prime, the leader of the Cybertronians, bungled the whole thing, your whole race now has to pay. This is where Orion's story comes into play. Orion's story is basically going to be him learning to be responsible, that sometimes duty has to come before fun, and his fun is now endangered the whole planet. So this is where the hero has to learn the hard lesson of responsibility. This is also where we're going to start seeing a divide between Orion and 16. Because Orion is going to want to save Sentinel Prime and all of those who followed him. He's going to want to try and save all Cybertronians. Whereas Megatron is going to see a parallel between, what he might possibly at this point believe is his ancestors, and what the Quintessons did to them, versus now what Sentinel Prime and his, crew, which for lack of better terms at this moment would be Autobots, did to his people, are currently doing to them. So it is a situation. It would be a situation of ideals versus Optimus, who wants to save everyone, including Sentinel, and views the Quintessons as the sole enemy, whereas D16 might actually view the rulership of Cybertron also as an enemy, because they were in league with the Quintessons, keeping them all underground, unaware, and enslaved. But it's not enough to tear them apart just yet. They're still going to be cooperative because they still need a plan here. Oh, by the way, I think this is also about the part of the movie where you start realizing like there is a budding relationship here. If this is following the Pixar DreamWorks route of animated movies, or Illumination as well, there's going to be a love story. There just has to be. It's why it's Alita instead of RC. So I'm fully expecting that. I'm fully expecting that as well, which might also drive a little bit more wedge between 16 and Orion, not over jealousy, more about, again, Orion not taking the situation seriously or getting distracted when something more important is happening. But it's going to lead to two different strategies. It's going to lead to Optimus, or Orion. I'm going to do that the whole video. It's going to lead to Orion and his group of Alita and Bumblebee trying to charge the Quintesson Citadel, their little home base on the surface, likely with the ones who are loyal to Sentinel backing them up to have one big fight on the surface of the planet, which is likely where we saw a lot of the Viacon battles. It's likely where we saw Arachnid popping up, who's most likely going to be Alita 1's cool action moment. And the scene itself here, I believe we're on a train here. I believe this is them hijacking another train. Because this is not supposed to be an enemy area, but they need to get to the surface. And what's the better way to get back to the surface than the way they went before? That also leaves D16 to rally troops to protect the Cybertronians underground, which means finding the more rebellious of the Transformers there. This is how he comes across Starscream, Shockwave, Soundwave, what we know as iconic Decepticons. So this is where I think something else might play in, because it's got to be like, to go from like this lowly worker bot that's just kind of like Orion's equal to someone who can actually subdue and order around these three, something else has to come into play. That symbol on him could either be something of destiny, if they are aware he is descendant from the original race of Transformers that originally fought the Quints. I also notice he has no fusion cannon in this yet, so it could be something of like, here's this ancient weapon that only activates through him. So now he's armed with this and nobody is testing him. It is worth pointing out that when all of them were in vehicle mode and like the scene where they're tumbling down the hill, it's very hard to see. But Megatron is a tank, but he doesn't have a cannon barrel. So it is likely something that is going to be added to him during the course of the movie. It might be during this. He might just beat up Starscream and just like scare everyone into command. One or the other. Either way, he's going to get these three and whoever is loyal to them to follow. And it's largely going to be the cast of Decepticons that we're familiar with. So you're going to have a battle on the surface with characters we know as Autobots, and a battle below the surface with characters we know as Decepticons. This is going to lead to an encounter with between Orion and who's probably going to be not the ugly one, not that ugly Quint we saw, like not this one. I'm fully expecting this to just be like a representative. I think the big bad of the movie we haven't actually seen yet. The one Orion actually has to face off to try and save Sentinel. The trick is, Orion doesn't do well in the fight, and even with Bumblebee and Sentinel there helping, it doesn't go well. Sentinel gets got. Sentinel ends up dying in the process. So it's likely Bumblebee who's going to run distraction and be the hero, while Orion tends to Sentinel. And that is going to be the moment where the Matrix gets passed on. So Orion, who was originally really beaten up in the fight, gets a full quick restoration, jumps back into the fray. He is full on Optimus Prime now. You can see the Matrix in his chest, so you know we're in that moment. And that's the point where he saves the day. But we have now have two different ideologies happening. You have those who were on Sentinel's side, who are under his leadership, who now see Optimus Prime as the new leader of Cybertron because the Matrix chose him, because he saved them from the ones who were the ones who were subjugating them. Meanwhile, D16 has earned the respect of all the ones who are battling underground. They follow him and his authority. And Optimus Prime taking the symbol and even part of the name of their subjugator immediately drives them apart. They are not going to follow along with this. So they bow to D16, who at this point likely has found the name Megatron. And as such, he begins branding his soldiers with the symbol that he's carried his entire life, and the symbol of those who originally rose up against the Quintessons, now trying to rise up against the Autobots, who don't, who still follow, who they still follow, who still believe that they're gonna follow Sentinel's ideals. Ideology split between the two. I don't think we see an actual clash in this movie between Optimus and Megatron. I think they go their separate ways with their separate ideologies, and this sets up for whatever movie to follow, whether this is a Bumblebee prequel, an 07 movie prequel, or its own new continuity. Hopefully, if this does huge box office bank, it's a new continuity. And then we get to see the first battles between Optimus and Megatron in a sequel. But I really think this is as close to the end of the movie as we are actually going to see. This might even be like post-credit thing, like mid-credit roll, where you just start to see like this ominous formation of the original Decepticons. Yeah, I think we're getting a teaser at the end of the very end of the movie with this one. So that's the prediction. There you go. That is what I'm banking on, of being like legitimately the entire plot of the movie. How accurate that is, won't know until September, but this is a nice little time capsule. We'll bury it now. We'll come back in a few months. We'll see how accurate I was. So maybe it'll be fun. Who knows? But that's what I'm expecting. So everyone, thank you very much for watching. Feel free to speculate in the comments below while keeping it civil. Remember, it's just a movie. You don't have to go into a rage over it. Just try to have fun. So thank you everyone for watching. I will see you next time.